So we have to make a couple decisions before we start a painting like this. Number one, do we want to do a daytime scene or a nighttime scene? Well, we did a nighttime scene recently, so I think today we'll try a daytime scene. From that, we wanted to think about what are some of the materials that you're going to find around the city in the subjects that you have to paint.
This mainly includes brick, concrete, asphalt, glass, and painted or rusted metals, but could include painted wood.
You might have a little landscaping as well, depending on your composition. So now that those are the subjects and materials we have to paint, we're going to decide on what our paint palette would be from that. You want to have some neutral colors in kind of a city because there's lots of dulls and grays and neutrals in there. So something like Payne's gray would be a good color to have on hand. If you don't have that, definitely some kind of black along with your whites, maybe a lamp black or an ivory black. And you always want to have at least the ability to make all the other colors in the rainbow as well. So now what we want to do is go through our reference material and see if we can come up with a good idea.
Locomotives. Well, the thing is, speeding locomotives run along these railroad tracks. And as artists, we see these tracks as nothing more than parallel lines. Now, the definition of parallel lines is you have some objects that create lines, and these lines stay the same distance apart as they go on forever. Yep, they're the same. But with perspective, as things get farther away, that distance between the lines appears to get smaller and smaller until it comes to one single point. And that point is what we call a vanishing point. Artists use vanishing points in their paintings and drawings when they're worried about perspective.
Well, hello there, I'm Jeffrey Kraft, and I'd like to thank you for taking a few minutes of your time and watching our video. We might take a second here and I'll introduce myself and my background a little bit. We'll describe what our show is all about and what you can look forward to seeing on this particular DVD. For myself, I pretty much come from a culture of self-taught artists. I originally went to school for architectural design, construction technology. It was during that period I happened to get a job in an art gallery. There I started painting myself and taught myself any way I can think of. And at that same time, I got pretty good pretty quick, and I started teaching other people as well. So as soon as I graduated from those first degrees, I went right back to school again, and I got a master's degree in art education. It was at that same time that I started my first televised show, focusing on material that might be found in books or DVDs, but not most painting shows. So all these different experiences of teaching myself and working in different environments with different type of people, I think it really helped prepare me and give me a good understanding of what is needed in a good painting show. During these experiences, I got to work with people that actually had fine art degrees, but they simply couldn't learn the things that they were personally wanting to know during that period. And there's a lot of things that they don't talk about at all in art school, and you're expected to learn this on your own after you get out of school. I also got to work in the school system, and working with young people, I saw what their needs were and how to prepare them if they want to have some kind of career in the art field. And last, I work with a lot of adults who are simply trying to teach themselves by taking some type of private art classes, and they're just wanting to do the best job they can. So all these experiences kind of helped us prepare and put together a show where we show the whole painting process and nothing is left to the imagination, and we show things that you won't get from any other resource. That brings us to our next point, where our show is actually shot. We're not shot in some TV station. This is the actual studio that I work in. So we have access to everything we need, and we can see the entire process start to finish. Nothing is left out, and nothing is left to the imagination. This is very important for artists that are still learning because they need to see the whole process, not just come in at the beginning right when you're starting the painting and then when you finish. And as you see here, we have a little reference library to look up any facts or information that might help us to do a certain subject. And that will be part of our show as well. We'll have book reviews and reviews on different products. If there's a book or a product that would be helpful to our viewers, we'll be glad to mention it on the show. And then when we do start an actual painting, a lot of those paintings get started right here at this desk. Here we'll do sketches and kind of work out composition ideas. And if we need some type of photo reference, we'll start with our small photo reference library that's right here. And if we do need any larger references, we have that covered as well. Or we might prepare by visiting an expert in the subject that we're painting. And then we reach our final destination. That's right, it's the easel, where all the magic happens, and everything that we've done so far is finally put to good use. But we don't stop there. We know that if a viewer watches us regularly and they put a little time and effort into this, there's no reason that they can't become pretty good pretty fast. So we appreciate these faithful viewers and give them information how to take care and conserve their personal masterpieces. We're counting on many of these paintings out there to be family heirlooms for decades to come. So viewers will learn how to frame, repair, and preserve their work, or how to make copies of your work if you want. They'll even get advice from professionals on how you could profit from your hard work as well. Our more serious viewers can be assured that the advice and techniques taught here is the same used by professionals, since the last thing we want is a dedicated viewer to spend time, effort, and money doing everything we advise them to do just to be deemed an amateur decorator artist, may be excluded from most galleries, and have to learn all over again from some other source. And people will learn very quickly that professional doesn't have to mean difficult or only for the gifted. The answer is complete instruction presented in an understandable fashion. Just by working a little more slowly and more thoughtfully, one can paint something that's simple, but it's quite professional. Paintings here will be completed in 1 to 3 episodes, but we also feature short, advanced technique demos on paintings that could take months. It's important for the students to see techniques on all kinds of paintings, not just those done in a few minutes. We also see no reason why a show that's educational can't be entertaining as well. So we may not be the next Star Wars, but we do what we can to make things interesting. We've also been known to throw in some occasional humor.
If you say so.
You see, this is what you get when you hire from the local comedy club.
When I do a portrait, I have trouble with the eyes. Could your show me how I can improve on making the eyes better?
That's actually a pretty good question. An important part of our show is having specials featuring certain subjects, and we'll do a little research about it before we paint it. But I don't tell people exactly how to paint a mountain or a flower or a tree, really. Like any good art school, our methods teach people how to paint anything. We simply might make some adjustments if there's something specific about a subject. Every type of instruction has its own purpose and usefulness, and people are more than welcome just to paint along as I paint. But having them simply copy what I do up here exactly isn't really our intention. A regular viewer will understand what a paint stroke represents before we paint it. They will be seeing just one example how to represent what we're all looking at together as we discuss the subject. They will know what paint hues and brushes can be substituted and that there's more than one way to use our tools. And if you do feel in a little bit too much, just dampen the brush slightly and kind of pull some of that out again, just dabbing that, lifting that out. That will also kind of create a textured look. And number 3, make sure if I want to give the indication that a branch is coming either towards us or away from us, that's called foreshortening. And I have to make sure that the shapes of bark are shorter. Otherwise, it would simply look like a branch that's maybe going sideways. So keep that in mind. Those 3 things all have to be considered and done properly for it to look realistic anyway. For example, I won't be telling people which brush to use exactly every few minutes. Sure, I'll mention what I'm using, but more importantly, we want to explain why they made the different designs and what their effects will be. Then you, being the artist, can decide which brush is best for you for your particular painting. We even do our best to cover the many different types of paints available these days, since oils may be the best to learn on, but not every viewer happens to work with oil paints. Another example would be I don't ask people to copy how I paint water. When painting water, however, I do teach them about reflected surfaces first, and when a surface should or should not reflect something. Knowing this, students can paint 1,000 different things, not just a lake. They could take a photo and make a dry scene look as though it just got done raining. Or your dog just got done swimming. And to understand that a reflection on someone's eye is nothing more than a mirror image of the light bulb in the room, or maybe the sun. This will change depending on your composition.
And those tuning into paint will soon see this isn't exactly rocket science. The more one watches, the more they understand how painting is not just for those who are naturally gifted.
Pretty much finished. I'm happy with the snow. And kind of the point of this whole exercise was don't be afraid to make changes. If you're doing plein air painting outdoors and it's not the best reference picture when you come back home, or the scene itself isn't all that great, use your imagination and the things that we learned from painting snow and painting skies and so forth. Those come in handy when you're really trying to change a composition and those things don't really exist there in real life. And we kind of did that. Basically worried about almost just what's around all this so I can start painting the sky. So now here we have a photo that's kind of a combination of a few photos, and we're going to kind of show you how we did that really quickly. Colors don't turn green even if you use a warmer like yellowy orange light with the cool light. You know, the combining light is different than combining our paints. Never forget that.
In only 30 to 60 minutes, we can define the different colors and values much better over a dry surface. Without the lamps, we better give it about 24 hours.
A good way to check your colors with the colors in your reference photo, if you are using photos for reference, is to isolate the colors somehow. And we do that by putting some holes in some cardstock paper. That way we just see a little area at a time. Because surrounding colors can throw you off, and often we tend to want to paint something what we think the color should be. Now this part over here, I'm going to do the strokes a little bit kind of at an angle like it is going up a hill. And also remember the idea or the little trick of looking in a mirror once in a while. I tell you, I can't tell you enough how you'll do something and you either look at it the next day, it looks different to you because you've had your bathing. So I'm just going to do an underpainting very simply, just so when I get a little more serious and bring out the oils, it will cover easier. That's all this first coat is really doing. If it's supposed to be soft when it's done. So before you wrap up painting, either at home or out on location, soften all your edges that are supposed to be soft. Okay, we used our steel wool to smooth the surface, and our tacky cloth here removes any excess residue. Now this will be one of those rare cases where we can apply straight color, and that's because we're just using a glaze form still. It won't be so strong and overbearing as long as we keep it a transparent glaze. So let's get our colors here. Another thing unique to our show is the diversity of styles and subjects that we teach. I myself believe a good instructor should be as diverse a painter as one could be. Otherwise, their usefulness is obviously limited. But since I understand one can never do it all, I invite guests to come on who can teach and inspire in ways that I cannot. I'll do my best to represent viewers in these cases and simply become another student, asking the questions and suggesting the demonstrations I think would be most helpful for our audience. As a rule, we don't have artists on just to promote their work. Now, we're not another reality show, but our show is based on reality. Our show's unique format allows all viewers to actually see what living artists do on a daily basis. Showing everything in this way also helps viewers develop a personal relationship with the artist and the subject the artist is painting. If we prepare to paint a farm scene, viewers will also gain access to the personal lives of the farmer and his family, just as the artist did.
In short, the complete painter documents the lives of artists, and the artists document the people and places we paint. This not only helps educate painters, but all who appreciate the arts and the many fascinating, sometimes overlooked subjects we try and pay tribute to each week.
Today we start by visiting our friend Adam Rengsdorf. He's someone who knows a lot about why different materials look the colors that they
Beam of
do.
white light, if you put the diffraction grating in front of it,
Blue won't absorb itself, so what you end up making, or what's left over after the other two go away, is blue.
Here we are with Fred, and he's one of the pilots of these magnificent planes. And as you know, we're trying to just get a little background research so we could do a painting.
The B-24 and the B-17 over there, but they did bombing missions. The B-24 both over Europe and over the Pacific.
Early in time, during knighthood, they were used as a way to carry the knights, the heavy horse. They were used in battle, and then after battle and we were back to agriculture again, they were used and adapted to agriculture. Bred a little different, but
was not used as a painting support until the late 15th century.
Oh, okay.
And so in your early days, think back to the fact that cavemen painted on rocks.
Right.
For several years, wooden panels were the support.
But the bee pollen is very important to the bees because without it, they can't raise brood. And without the bees, they don't pollinate the crops, and we don't have food to eat. Every third bite of food that you eat, you owe to a honeybee pollinating that crop.
Try to get a sense of what the brush strokes might be, things like that. Those are the things you can't get from looking at just a still image of something. So that's why we come to the museum.
So the high boots, the breeches, the very formal button-down shirts with the very formal caps are what was typically worn.
To be a curator in an art museum, you need to have at least a master's in art history and a PhD in a large museum like the Art Institute of Chicago. History major, love of objects, love of talking about objects and researching objects and being very much material culture. In a large museum, there are obviously more departments, so a smaller museum you would do everything. Here we do research, we buy, we install, we work on exhibitions. So our major concern is to conserve the art, to make sure that it's taken care of, to exhibit the art, and to research the art, and to interpret the art for the public.
In some cases, you would see the pins in a rough. You could they'd actually do it. It was that detailed.
I guess the clothes themselves were very important, much more than they are today, what you actually wear, right? And it's something to do with your status in society. Right?
Absolutely. The society of the time was very stratified, you had your place in society. And there wasn't a lot of movement between those places. But then again, it was where you were supposed to be.
We strive to change the notion that art may be enjoyable but not very practical as a career choice. Viewers will soon see the relationship visual art has with many other core subjects and the many different fields one can pursue if they take something like painting a little more seriously. We hope that our guests, who make their living this way, will inspire people of all ages to make their dreams not just dreams, but reality.
We hope our show is the type of programming that you would like your company or organization to be associated with. We also look forward to doing business with you in a way that benefits everyone. Either way, we'd also like to hear any comments or suggestions you may have. Since we're simply trying to produce programming that people want and need, we consider all suggestions very seriously. But most of all, we hope our show inspires you or someone you know to try something new that you've always wanted to try, but you just need that little extra motivation to go out and give it a go. Until then, from all of us here at The Complete Painter, I'm Jeffrey Kraft, and take care.
Okay, sky show intro. Camera roller. Audio rolling. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome once again to The Complete Painter. I'm your host, Jeffrey Kraft, and guess what? Yes, we're going to finally start that sky painting I've been promising you. So let's get started. Now remember, we have to use some large brushes for a picture like this. Goodbye!